At the end of the interview, they usually say, do you have any questions for us? At this point, I want to give y'all a really, really, really important tip, you guys. Don't. Bryce until it don't. Do not.
I don't love just anyone. I am not just anyone. I rock heels, I rock Jordans, and I wear wigs and rock my natural. Can you believe he says I'm pretty for a dark skin? He was dark skin. I bought some Hennessy for these niggas. Wonder if they love their mother. I love their skin color.
Hey Switchies, welcome back to my channel. If you're new, my name is Semyia. And before we get started on this video, I have an announcement to make. I am going to be doing a sorority Q&A. So if you guys have any questions about sororities, fraternities, Greek life, anything NPHC related, or console related, basically anything I can actually answer going to a HBCU. So you guys have any questions about that, I will be doing a special Q&A video so you guys can ask me any questions that you guys want to ask me. You can ask me personal questions, you can ask me general questions, whatever. It will all be anonymous, but do not put the questions in the comment section unless they're general questions. If it's something more personal relating to you, I would suggest that you DM me. You can direct message me on YouTube, or you can DM me on any of my social media networks, which are always linked in the description box, always at the beginning of the video, and I will also link them down below the video right now. So that way you guys can DM me any questions that you guys have. I will be taking your questions up until Wednesday. So Wednesday is when I will film the video, and it'll be up Thursday. So basically just ask me some questions and I will answer them for you guys. So look out for that video and make sure you get those questions to me before Wednesday. And yeah, we can get started into this video now that we got that out the way. Alright, so this video is going to be another sorority video. At this point, you are receiving your invitation for an interview. So this video is going to be about interviews, and we're going to talk about the interview process and things leading up to the interview, and a little bit after the interview, and also obviously during the interview, what to prepare for and what you should know and that sort of thing. So basically before the interviews, how it works is after the informational that you attend and you apply and you turn in all of your paperwork and things like that, based off of that, basically if they feel like you are worthy of an interview and they want to know more and actually meet you face to face on a personal level and not so much paper wise, like at this point they basically saying you look good on paper, but we want to see how you are in person, if you're personable, if you're a friendly person, you know, if what you're saying is the truth, if you're really interested, have you done your research, that sort of thing. So at this point you will get like a letter or some type of mail, and it'll basically just be saying congratulations, you've been selected for an interview, which is the next portion of acceptance to the sorority, whatever, blah blah blah, and it'll basically give you a date, a time, a location, and contact number, that sort of thing. So at this point, that means that you are almost there. Now basically at this point, all you have to do is ace the interview. All you have to do is give the interview a 100%, and you are in there. You're in that thing. So that's pretty much it. That's the last step before they say, yo, we want you to be a member. So we're going to talk about what the letter would say, some of the things the letter might include, which would be like special, not requests, but things that you might need to bring to the interview. So it may say bring your transcript, like official one. If they didn't ask for an official one at the informational, or you know, with your packet they ask for unofficial due to like time constraints or something like that, they may ask you to bring an official one. They may ask you to bring your class schedule or just, you know, stuff like that. But one thing that you should most definitely always bring, whether they ask for it or not, is your resume, which I said before in the last video. You just bring your resume everywhere, honey. You just want them to know, look, I'm qualified. So you take your resume to the interview, a copy of it or a couple, and you let them read it over as they're asking you questions, as they're interviewing you, so they have time to look at some things that maybe, you know, that they wouldn't have questioned you about, but now they got to look into you so they can ask you questions more personalized to you and your experience. Dress professional. So this is similar to how you would dress for the informational, maybe a tad bit more professional. I think that a suit is nice, a blazer, you know, business professional. As I stated before, like a job interview. You just want to be really professional, ladylike, classy when you go to your interview, because this is not only a chance for you to prove your worth, but some of these girls may not have been at the informational, so it could be the first time for some of these girls to meet you. So you are making a first impression on somebody as well. So you might not have been able to personally stand out at the informational either. Maybe you just, you know, you didn't really completely stand out. So this is your chance and this is your first impression. So definitely dress to impress, dress professional and respectable. Okay, so let's talk about, beforehand. This is all what's going on before the actual interview. We'll get to what happens during the interview in a second. So before the interview, you want to mentally prepare yourself. That means you need to meditate, you need to pray, you need to talk to somebody who calms you down, you need to drink some tea, you know, whatever you need to do it before the interview, honey. So that way you are your best possible self, you're calm, you're not nervous, because there's nothing worse, like for interview wise, when you come in there and you're kind of stammering around questions, you don't completely answer or understand the questions, you know, you're not communicating very well, you're not making eye contact, you know, you're just really uncomfortable. That not only is uncomfortable to you, that makes the interviewer very uncomfortable. Like in that position as the person who is asking the questions, it makes them be like, ooh, like I really don't want to, I don't want to make her uncomfortable, I don't want to ask her more questions because she just seems so, you know, uncomfortable, and this is just awkward now, and now I feel like it's my fault. So at this point now you're just like, you know, you don't really want to ask too much because that person is so uncomfortable answering questions. So therefore that means I don't get much information out of you either. So how can I decide you should be a member of my organization if we can't even communicate, you know, that very well? Yes, interviews can be a little intimidating, but that's not the point of them. If you go in there with confidence, you know what you're talking about, which basically just means that you know yourself, like, because you're talking about yourself, really. You're talking about yourself and you're talking about why you want to be a part of the organization. So if you just know what you're talking about and you know yourself, you will be fine. But when I say mentally prepare beforehand, I mean like you need to mentally prepare. Also just kind of like practice some questions or practice answering questions. It doesn't have to be the questions. Maybe you don't know what they're going to ask, but just practice answering questions. Have somebody just treat you like it's a job interview and just bounce off these questions or things that you think that they might ask. Bounce those questions off of each other, or not each other, but have someone bounce those off of you and you kind of answer them and see how you flow with answering them and that sort of thing. Just practice a little bit. There's nothing wrong with that. So now we're going to get to during the interviews. Okay, so during the interviews, the setup can be different depending on the organization and how many people are in the chapter. I've been Greek for over 2 years now, so I have some experience with how they go from both sides, as well as just how other people may do theirs too, just by what I hear. So generally speaking, it's usually not the entire chapter that is there, but it is enough to be intimidating. It's not one person, it's not two people, unless the chapter is that small. But if it's not a small chapter, generally speaking, it's enough to be intimidating. It's probably like 5 people. I've heard of 20 people being in the room. So it can be a little intimidating staring at the girls that, you know, are going to decide your fate when it comes to this, you know, entry into their organization. And, you know, you're looking at them, they're looking at you, and everybody's looking at you at the same time, and all these eyes are trained on you. It can be intimidating, it can be scary, it can be awkward. You just have to kind of ignore that. Not ignore them, but just ignore the fact that everybody's looking at you. Kind of similar to doing a presentation, I guess. So, you know, when you answer a question, turn to the person that asked the question and answer them. That usually helps. So they're not going to all ask you 10 million questions at the same time, but they usually go back and forth. Each person has a designated or assigned question that they're going to ask, and you know, that person will ask and then you'll answer, and then another person will ask and then you'll answer. So I suggest that, so you're not nervous, when you're answering the questions, turn to the person who asked the question and give them the answer. And if it's general, like you're just generally introducing yourself, make sure that you look dead center, you know, so that way you can get as many people in your eyesight as possible. Introduce yourself and smile. You know, you don't have to go and do a 360 around the room, you know. If there's people sitting like that all around the room, then you don't have to do all that, you know. Just be comfortable and focus on a person, you know, that makes you comfortable. Focus on the person who is asking the question and speak to them. It's really rude. You don't want to like just focus on one person and then somebody over here asks you a question, but you looking over here answering the question. That person asked you the question, so look over there and answer them. So that's really important. And another thing, let's see what else to expect. Sometimes there are group interviews, depending on the organization, how many girls come to the how many girls are there at the same time and that sort of thing. That doesn't really happen within my chapter and in my organization, but that has happened in some others. So just, you know, sometimes it's like that, and with that you just want to make sure that you stand out with your answer that is well thought out and articulate. So those are some things to expect as far as the interviews go. Okay, some of the questions to expect. So it's really similar to a job interview. It's not really far-fetched. People kind of put in their heads that they're going to ask you some stuff like, who are my founders? You know, or they're going to be like, so when were we founded? What's our principles? And ask you stuff like that. When I say do your research, I'm not telling you to come and, you know, spit info. That's not what the interview is for. You will learn that stuff during your intake. If you don't know it, but you should know it, because that's ridiculous if you don't know it but you're trying to join. You know, general information is something you should already know, honey. But anyways, they're not going to ask you stuff like that. You know, the questions are about your character, your work ethic, you as a person, some of your hobbies, some of your likes, your weaks, your strengths, experiences. It is just like a job interview. The questions are just kind of rephrased to fit a sorority. So, you know, the basic questions that they ask you at a job interview, you can pretty much just flip them around a little bit, and that's pretty much what you're going to be asked at a sorority interview. So there's nothing to be nervous about if you ever applied to a job and had an interview. You know what to expect, you know what to do, you know, just practice, you know, articulating the things that you already know inside your heart. You know, you should know why you want to join. And the problem sometimes that people have is not the fact that they don't know, but sometimes they don't know how to articulate that. So if you have a hard time articulating your thoughts, then practice it before the interview. You know they're going to say, why do you want to join this organization? That's going to be the main question they're going to ask you. You know they're going to ask that. So you should be at home practicing. I want to join this, you know, this organization because. I want to join this organization because. And practice it out loud. Change the way you say it. Write it out. You know, record yourself. Whatever you need to do, privately, obviously, but whatever you need to do just to make sure that what you're saying is communicating well with others, and that you're articulating yourself in a way that they're going to grasp, and they're going to be like, okay, I feel you. Like, that's a good answer, you know. So there's nothing wrong with practicing, you guys, because some people are just not public speakers and they get nervous. So I highly suggest that those people who have that, you know, those issues, public speaking and stage fright, nervousness with speaking to others and communicating, practice. There's nothing wrong. Now we're going to move on to, at the end of the interview, they usually say, do you have any questions for us? At this point, I want to give y'all a really, really, really important tip, you guys. don't, Bryce until it don't, do not ask them about intake. Don't ask them, how long is intake going to take? What are we going to be doing for intake? You know, when is it going to start? When is it going to end? Don't ask them none of that, because if you're selected, you'll find out. That's not one of the questions that you need to ask, because I promise you, you're not going to get an answer. So therefore, don't waste your question. If you have a question about something else, you want to ask for something that you didn't ask at the informational, you want to get clarification on something about the organization, anything like that, feel free to ask. And there's also nothing wrong with saying, no thank you, I don't have any questions today. You know, it was really great meeting you guys. Thank you guys for the opportunity. Ain't nothing wrong with that either. If you don't got no questions, don't make up one, because if it's not a good question, then you're just wasting everybody's time and you just look silly at that point. So if you don't have a question, there's nothing wrong with saying, no, I don't have any questions. So thank you guys so much for your time and consideration, whatever you got to say, and get up out of there. But don't ask them about intake. Okay. After this point, after the interview is done and over with, you had your interview, you can sigh a relief. Everything's all done. You good. You like, I nailed it. I did great. You know, I practiced. I was prepared. I did the damn thing. You know, I feel confident, you know, that they're going to pick me after this. Let's say you leave the interview like that. And at this point, all you are doing is waiting for a letter of acceptance or denial to come. So some organizations do acceptance and denial letters. Some only send out acceptance letters. So at this point, if you get an acceptance letter after your interview, you made it, honey. Woo! Yay! Good for you. That means that the sorority has selected you for membership, and at that point, you are joining intake. If you get a denial letter, it is not the end of the world, baby. I understand. It's okay if you shed a few tears, because some people, you know, you work really hard, you really want it, you aspire to be something. Disappointment sucks. You know, it always sucks to be told or to feel like you're not good enough for something, but that is not what that means. Don't take it like that. It does not mean you weren't good enough. It just means that you didn't have what they were looking for in that moment, or that somebody else offered something else that they felt like they needed more. So do not beat yourself up. It's okay. You can try again or never again if you want. It's up to you, but it is not the end of the world. So don't give up and don't beat yourself up about it, because you're still wonderful and you still have a lot to offer and you're still worth a lot, okay? Now, if this is one of those circumstances where they don't have a denial letter, which we don't do that. We don't send out them letters. So, at this point, when you're waiting on these letters, do not call, text, email, stalk on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, you know, none of that. Don't do it. Don't do it. Because you're just bugging them. And if they hadn't decided yet, you're now making them decide no, because you're getting on their dang nerves, okay? If they hadn't voted yet, now they're about to be like, oh, hell no. Because you're being a bugaboo. Leave them folks alone. Wait for your letter, okay? And if you don't get a letter within 2 weeks, then honey, chances are you were not chosen. And either you can just do deductive reasoning and figure that out, or you'll see a flyer for the probate and you'll realize that you had not been part of intake and they're having a probate and you're not in it and you ain't practiced, so therefore you did not make it. And like I said, it's not the end of the world. Go support your friends if they made it. Don't hate. Support them. Congratulate the ones that did. And try, you know, more. Improve yourself more, so that way next time they have intake, you have more of a chance or a likeliness of being accepted. And sweetheart, it does happen when people come back a second time. That does happen. People get denied 1, 2 times sometimes, and they come back a third time, you know, and they will eventually get accepted. Not all the time. Sometimes that's not going to happen for you, and it's not in the cards for you. But sometimes that perseverance does pay off, and those people get accepted and they get looked at like, wow, like they really want this, you know, they didn't have the grades this time, they didn't have, you know, a great recommendation letter this time, you know, they could have worked on their experience and community service a little more, but then they came back. And they came back and they, you know, they didn't have those same problems. They fixed themselves. They improved themselves. They grew. They learned from this experience and they came back harder and they made it to where I can't say no. I can't refuse you this time. So that is very inspiring to those people who are part of the selection committee, and that's, you know, that sits well with them. That makes them want to be like, I need to pick this person for my organization, because they don't give up. They don't quit. You know, that is great. They don't come with the excuses, man. They just fix the problem. That's a great quality to have. So if you get denied, just don't give up. Alright guys, so that's all that I have for this video today. I hope that it was informative to you guys. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video, that it gave you some insight and information into the interview process, the selection process a little bit after the interview. One thing that I did forget to mention is that with every organization, it is majority chapter vote to vote someone in. They have to, majority of the chapter has to vote to select you. And when I say majority of the chapter, that means active and good standing and financial members. So if your homegirl is not financial, active, or in good standing, and you think she's going to vouch for you, she's not, because she's not even allowed to be part of that intake process. So that means that you really need to put your best foot forward, your best effort forward, and just make sure that you make a good impression, because one person, it's not just one person selecting you and going to push you through. That person can vouch for you and say, you know, they have really good qualities, I like them, we should pick them, and see if the rest of everybody else is like, okay, I trust your judgment, I'm going to vote for them. But it doesn't always go that way, and that one person's judgment may not be that great, and they would know that, and so, you know, you may possibly fall because of that. So just make sure that you stand on your own 2 feet, even with, you know, going through intake process that, you know, you obviously need a vote for. So that's really important. But like I said, this video is over with. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel down below, and right next to the subscribe button, click the bell so you can get notified whenever I post anything new. Don't forget to follow all my social media in the description box below, and stay tuned to the next video. And send me them questions, you guys, because I'm definitely going to do that Q&A. Y'all have tons of questions every time I do these videos, so I just want to see what it is that y'all thinking, what y'all want to know, what y'all want answered, and I'm going to answer it for y'all. So let a girl know. And I will see you guys in the next video, and I hope you guys enjoyed this. So goodbye. Smooches.
I got a condo in Manhattan. Baby girl, what's happening? You and your ass invited, so gonna get to clapping. Go pop it for a plan, pop it for me. Turn around and drop it for a plan, drop it for me.